Chapter 12. The past weeks had marked a shift for Garrett and Martin. What started as a reluctant partnership, Martin stuck with a bored intern and Garrett unimpressed by his limited assignments, had slowly transformed. Garrett's enthusiasm for the project had been infectious. Once Martin realized that the kid was onto something useful, something beyond the mundane data crunching they were assigned, he found himself enjoying the work. Garrett was sharp, eager, and driven by the same kind of curiosity Martin remembered from his early career. Watching Garrett light up as he refined the code, determined to make the drone system come alive, reminded Martin of why he'd entered the field in the first place. The project had taken on a life of its own, transforming their routine workdays into something interesting, even exciting. Now they stood in the blazing Australian sun, watching their hard work in motion. Garrett adjusted his sunglasses, squinting as the drone zipped over the vast field, its camera streaming live footage back to their tablets. Dry grass and scrub spread in all directions, dotted with trees while the hum of the drone filled the air. Their code had a singular mission today: deter any kangaroos that dared step foot into their test zone. "We're live," Garrett muttered, tapping his screen. A small hum filled the air as the drone lifted off. The drone hovered in place, awaiting the next set of commands. Using the satellite data they'd integrated earlier, Martin pulled up a live overlay on his tablet, scanning for any signs of disruption in the field. The satellite images, refreshed every few minutes, showed subtle movements and patterns: grazing trails, flattened grass, and animal pathways. Martin zoomed in on a heat signature near the edge of the field and marked the location. He'd spotted them just as the code highlighted the 3 figures near the boundary line, their small forms clear against the surrounding scrub. The drone adjusted its flight path, veering toward the suspected intruder with pinpoint accuracy. 3 kangaroos on the perimeter, Martin announced, tapping the screen to highlight them. Garrett's stomach did a flip with excitement. This was it. Their code was running out here in the middle of nowhere, finally ready to give these kangaroos a proper scare. The drone targeted the nearest kangaroo, adjusting its course to approach. The small machine hovered 20 feet above the ground, inching closer until it was in range. With a satisfying beep, Garrett's code activated the air horn. A loud, blaring noise cut through the quiet, reverberating across the field. But the kangaroo didn't even twitch. It stood there, oblivious to the sound, snacking on the grass, barely glancing in the drone's direction. "Great. Either he's deaf or couldn't care less," Garrett muttered, glancing at Martin. "We need to tighten up the distance." He set the drone to swoop in a bit closer on its next path. 2 feet, Garrett said, uploading the update. "That should get its attention. Run it again?" Martin grinned, more than happy to give it another go. The drone circled back, the modified distance set for closer proximity. This time, the air horn blared just a few feet away from the kangaroo, catching it off guard. It startled, a tense pause, then the animal bolted, bounding away from the field, kicking up dirt in its wake. "Now we're getting somewhere," Martin said, with a satisfied nod, the edges of a grin forming. But their success was short-lived. On the screen, they noticed another kangaroo, a big one, watching the drone with a mix of indifference and mild curiosity, completely undeterred by the noise. The drone moved closer, air horn blaring in short, repeated blasts, but the kangaroo simply blinked, unmoved. After a few seconds, the drone gave up, hovering briefly before retreating to resume its scan. "Looks like we got ourselves a repeat offender," Garrett said, watching the screen as the drone circled back, having failed to shift the kangaroo an inch. "It's just not enough pressure on the persistent ones." Martin scratched his chin, deep in thought. "How about I don't know, swarm it? Set up a chase protocol that keeps going till it clears out of the field." Garrett's eyes lit up. "A swarming protocol, yes! We program it so the drone pursues the kangaroo aggressively, hovers close, and continues blasting the horn, but without making physical contact. Get it to the edge of the field and stop there. Only target repeat offenders, Martin added, getting into the idea. A single scare pass for first-timers, but if they come back, they're in for a chase. Exactly. We'll set it to stop once they're out of the crop range, Garrett agreed, already scrolling through the code to make adjustments. Drone backs off once kangaroos pass the boundary. He worked quickly, tapping away as the heat bore down on them, modifying the drone's behavior to make it more relentless, more insistent on driving the kangaroo out of the protected zone. He programmed in the swarming protocol, adding a buffer to ensure the drone didn't cross the field boundaries, but instead followed the intruder right to the edge, giving it no choice but to leave. All right, let's see if they like this, Garrett said, pushing the final code update. They sent the drone out again, holding their breath as the drone zeroed in on the third kangaroo, their designated repeat offender. As the drone neared, the air horn blared, and this time, instead of retreating, it kept at a close distance, circling the animal and nudging it further and further towards the edge. The kangaroo hesitated, looking for a moment as if it might stand its ground, but the relentless buzzing and noise from the air horn finally broke its patience. It turned and bounded away, the drone following it until it was safely out of the field. "Huh," Martin said, with a grin he rarely allowed himself. "Now that's how you handle a persistent one." Garrett laughed, exhilarated. "Do they give out awards in agriculture? Because I think we're onto something here." They watched as the drone returned to its scanning position, slowly flying back and forth protectively over the field, ready for the next pest. It wasn't perfect, but it was close. And as far as Garrett was concerned, they were just getting started.